Hi, I'm Claire Varley and welcome to the final edition of the Essendon District Football League Season Preview. We've been counting down to the 2015 season thanks to the Pascoe Vale Hotel. 12, Railway Parade Pascoe Vale. It's time for Pellizzeri and Adem Saricaoglu to lock in their final pre-season ladder predictions for the year ahead. So who's going to finish where? Let's find out.
Well, Adem, this is the chance to live either as heroes or in infamy because our tips go on the line. Premiers, relegated, finalists and the full ladders. You can see them on the column next to us. Let's start in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. Adem, here's my rationale for putting in Pascoe Vale ahead of Keilor and Greenvale. If they can make it to the top four and win the games to get in, then they will have a good enough team to go all the way and win the premiership. The thing I ask is, will they get it together and click in time to get to the top four? Because I still think Keilor and Greenvale will capitalise more stable, perhaps, able to win more games earlier in the season, while Pascoe Vale, really the unknown is astronomical, but I don't want to fall into the trap of saying they won't get it together, because if they do, they're definitely a team capable of winning the premiership, and I'm guessing that might have been a similar rationale to the one that you've used.
Yeah, look, it's similar to Greenvale last year. I mean, they took such a long time to get going and made a pretty late run, but still missed out in the end. I suppose that's what you're perhaps alluding to. That's going to be the question mark with Pascoe Vale. But my top four, Teo, is pretty similar to yours, and I'm going with Paco as well, only simply because of how much quality they are bringing into their side this year. It's going to be a massive improvement. I've also got Paco squeezing out Greenvale and Keilor, which was... I spent a good half hour on that one.
I feel ridiculous for putting Greenvale sixth.
Yeah.
I know it's a stupid thing to do, but where can you squeeze them in? It's impossible.
I've got Greenvale fifth. I think they came fifth last year as well, Teo. So back to back, unfortunately for the Jets. For our previews, I've got Greenvale finishing above Keilor. It's such a hard decision, but I think Paco's just improved that much on paper that they're going to top those two, and it's really hard to take out the top three that we both agree on, Strathmore, Aberfeldy and Avondale Heights. So you can't really leave those three out. And so that fourth one is up for grabs, and I suppose we both agree on Pascoe Vale, but it seems like we're not that confident about it.
Well, there's a question mark on Avondale as well, I suppose, but every time I've tried to rationalise taking them out of the top four, am I really going to bet against Rose? Am I going to bet against Galea and Cravino and Cartelli and Tanner and all the guys that they've brought in? I don't think so. This is why it's so difficult to work out who's making the top four. Let's talk about the Premier picks. I am going to go with Strathmore back-to-back. Aberfeldy, once bitten, twice shy. Neither of us have picked them to win the flag this year. Wouldn't surprise me if they won the flag this year, but perhaps after two heartbreaking grand final defeats, you wonder if the change of coach and some of the turnover of the players, as good as they are, is enough to overcome some of the mental demons that might be lurking in those that remain at the club. Talk me through your pick for the premiership and why you've gone with Avondale Heights.
Look, Saricaoglu and the boys down there, we've been hearing a lot about this 3-year plan. It's now year 3. I really like the ins that they brought in this year. There's a lot of VFL experience, and in my time covering local footy, Teo, I actually have rated VFL talent coming in more highly than ex-AFL talent. I do think there's a stronger link between the VFL and local footy, and therefore the players that come from the VFL into leagues such as ours, they tend to adapt better. And Avondale's brought a couple of those guys in this year. Saricaoglu obviously coming himself from a VFL system. I think it's their time to strike now. It was so disappointing how they went out last year in the straight sets after arguably being the premiership favourites. They've still got Rose and Galea up forward. I think this year is their year to strike Avondale for mine to win the flag.
Well, it's not the worst call because, as we saw in the qualifying final, they finished without a bench, 5 injured players, and they were still in front in the last quarter before Strathmore overran them, and then they were knocked out in straight sets. So they were probably closer than maybe the off-season and the passing of time gives them credit for. Let's talk about the relegation battle. Now, as you can see from our ladders there, I think Airport West will edge out Northern Saints at the bottom of the league. Northern Saints have lost so many players that did the job for them last year. I feel like they're just an injury, maybe 2 injuries, but an injury away from potential disaster at the bottom of the table. They've got a coach who's new to the competition. The good news is he seems to have engaged the club. The depth is there to an extent. The numbers have been pretty good in training and the commitment has been pretty good. I'm just not sure that Steve Kostevski and the Northern Saints can do it again. we'll be talking about their survival from relegation pretty much forever after. To think that they could do it 2 years in a row, that would be extraordinary. I really do think that it's going to be the end of the line for Northern Saints, and I just hope, like anything, that they can get an early win somewhere and make it difficult for everyone else in this division and really make them fight for their lives down at the bottom of the league.
Yeah, look, they're my tip for the spoon as well, unfortunately, the Northern Saints. I'm a great admirer of theirs, Teo. That's been well documented. I really like the way they go about it. And to be honest, they probably relied on that a little bit too much last year, just getting enough score on the board, and some teams weren't able to catch them in that race. Just kicking goals, basically. They've lost so much of that potency, especially with a couple of guys now heading to Hillside. That's they've pretty much their biggest weapon, I suppose, in 2014 has been diminished in 2015, and for mine, that's why they're my tip for relegation. But there's going to be some great battles this year against West Coburg. I think West Coburg's probably the next most threatened team to go back down. I'm really looking forward to those battles between those two clubs. But for mine, the Northern Saints have just lost too much, and it's probably not going to be enough to stay up this year.
Well, hopefully the future is kind to these predictions, and history will judge us well. That's it for our picks in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. So to Essendon Ford Division 1, and for all the talk and all the burning questions about how close this division would be and how difficult it is to sort out, Adam, all of a sudden we've arrived with the same top four in the same Premier. So what gives? Is it actually a consensus, or are we both barking up the wrong tree at the same time?
In the same order as well, mind you, Teo. Look, it's almost ridiculous trying to predict what's going to happen in Essendon Ford Division 1 this year. It's been such an amazing competition of football, the best in local footy for mine in terms of just how competitive and close it is, and it's going to be like that again this year. So it's quite ironic that we actually do have the same top four in the same order. But look, we've both gone with Dooders, West Meadows, Craigieburn and Hillside, but that is no disrespect to the other five clubs in this division. All five of them could easily make the finals themselves. We just don't know it's going to be that close this year.
Well, let's talk about the premiers at the top of the table. Dooders going back up. As I suggested in the Dooders video, do they actually want to win the flag with this team and return to battling against relegation, or do they have money in the kitty to aim to win the flag and then build a Premier team in the space of one off-season? I mean, my argument has been the model is Pascoe Vale and the model was Airport West. They came up with teams that were ready for Premier and didn't need a great deal of addition to them. This Dooders team probably does need it, but you can make the same argument. Craigieburn have probably only got, a handful, maybe 5 or 6 players that can step straight into Premier. And West Meadows, again, having turned over their entire list over the course of 2 seasons, they would need some significant investment as well in order to be able to cut it in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. So at the start of pre-season, there's no obvious candidate for a promoted team that would be right at home in the top division once they get there.
I tend not to look at that so much though, Teo. I'll just look at these clubs based on merit in terms of how they stack up against each other in Division 1. I don't really worry about how they're going to handle promotion. That's probably a discussion I'd rather start in probably August or September. And for that reason, that's why Essendon Dooders Stars is heading this pack. I know there's a lot of talk about Craigieburn at the moment. They've brought in the Cloaks. They've brought in a couple other guys from Whittlesea as well. And it's about time they actually did step up and start play finals footy again. It's been a while for the Eagles. And West Meadows so good last year that, we're certainly convinced they can improve and go better this year. But Essendon Dooders Stars, having come down, I think it's going to be a big motivator, the fact that they have come down. They feel like they are a Premier club, and they don't want to be down in Essendon for Division 1 too long. So I think that motivating factor is the reason why they're my favourite.
Now, let's talk about the top 4, because we have come to an agreement there. And with Glenroy as both of our 5th place teams, does that mean that if injuries hit, if there should be some sort of disaster with regards to a coach losing the group or players simply not performing as they were expected, and one of those 4 we've picked to make the finals aren't there, is Glenroy the next best team, or can you make a case for Taylors Lakes, who were there last season, let's not forget in the prelim final, or maybe Oak Park to improve significantly?
Yeah, that bottom 5 is going to be a raffle, Teo. I'm really not sure about this. I'm not even comfortable having Taylors Lakes down at 6th. They could easily make finals themselves, Taylors Lakes. I know neither of us are really sold on what they've done over the off-season and whether they can improve. They've been finalists for so long, but we've been waiting for the improvement and it hasn't come, and they're not getting any younger, that list. So for that reason, I suppose Glenroy is probably the top of that bottom 5, but doesn't really mean anything in March, does it, Teo? It's all about what happens in April and onward.
Now, relegation, Adam. You've got Tulla going from the grand final to the drop. I flagged it in Tullamarine's video that it was a possibility. I think that they've got the spending money to get themselves out of trouble, to put together a team. The problem is they're building from scratch. But I'm going to back Anthony Layden in his second gig back in this division after West Meadows a couple of years ago. I think Tulla can do it. I don't think they can go back to the finals by any stretch. I do have them second last on the table. I just wonder, are East Keilor going to make the grade and step up? And I flagged it in East Keilor's video as well. I can see them winning 4, 5, maybe even 6 games and being the unlucky team squeezed into last place. I cannot at this stage see a runaway 0-2 win team at the bottom of this division. And let's not forget, we had 2 of them last year with Craigieburn and Hadfield, well below the rest of the standard of the rest of the competition. So I think this is going to be a very unlucky relegated team, and I'm picking East Keilor with absolutely no confidence because I think it could still be Tullamarine. It could be Oak Park. And heck, if there are mid-season retirements or injuries or just maybe a lack of motivation, it could even be Taylor's Lakes. So it really is one of the most difficult decisions, if not the most difficult decision I've made pulling a team out of the hat for this entire preview series.
One game could be the difference between making finals and getting relegated, Teo. It's unbelievable. I remember a couple of years ago in the second division in England, I think QPR was the only team in the final week of the season that couldn't be relegated nor win the championship. This could well be the same in Essendon for Division 1 this year. You've gone with East Keilor getting relegated. I don't think that's going to happen. Purely and simply, Hillside last year, they came up from Division 2. They weren't in as good a shape as what East Keilor is now, in my opinion.
That's your argument, but they came into a division with a vulnerable Craigieburn and a weaker Hadfield. Yeah. And I just don't think there are teams that are at that level this year.
I do hear what you're saying, Teo. But East Keilor are a very, very settled side. They're a winning side. Dave Batistella is a winning coach. I think they're going to handle the jump okay. They're stable. Taylor's not. Oak Park might not be. We don't know this at the moment. And obviously Taylor's Lakes, we don't know just exactly where their improvement's going to come from. So I'm basing that decision based on stability, basically. I think East Keilor, they haven't really lost anyone from their premiership side last year. I think they're going to handle the jump okay. Tullamarine, it's not going to be the same side that we saw at Windsor Hill last September. Simple as that. They're coming from such a long way back, having lost such a large chunk of their best 22, as well as their coach Ash Manning, who's no longer in the league. That's why they're my tip for relegation. And that's no disrespect really to Tulla. It could easily be Oak Park, but Oak Park showed some good signs here and there last year. You can put 4 or 5 teams to a hat, pick one out, and the odds are even for which one of them is going to be relegated. But at the end of the day, we had to make a decision. I've gone with Tulla, you've gone with East Keilor. We could both easily be wrong.
Well, it's an impossible division to pick and an impossible decision to make. So we'll wait and see how we go. But those are our predictions for Essendon Ford Division 1. And so too Division 2, which looks slightly more clear-cut than the other 2 competitions, although this one might prove to be the most difficult to predict of all. Let's start at the top of the table. Again, we've come to a consensus on Coburg Districts, but not with a great deal of confidence. Hadfield does bring down a pretty handy team. Major changes, coaching change after a decade, extensive turnover of players, and plenty of guys coming back to football after not playing for a while. And Roxburgh Park, I mean, I've got them third on my ladder, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them there on grand final day at the end of the season. So I think this one's a race in 3, and Jacana is my wild card that I've got squeezing into the top 4. What was your thought process for going with Coburg Districts?
Yeah, look, they're year 3 now, back up in the EDFL. I know they did play finals last year from memory, Teo, but didn't make them in 2013. Improvement. That's pretty much the only reason why I've gone with Coburg Districts this year. They're going to keep improving. They brought a couple of guys in. I got to see them on the weekend in a practice match against East Keilor and played pretty well for certain stages against a team in a higher division. So I'm convinced that Coburg Districts can go all the way this year. But the key about Division 2, you've got to remember this year, Teo, no more Hillside, we know that. No more East Keilor. Going into the first 2 full years of Division 2 football, it was a clear-cut favourite. That is no longer the case, which means it is pretty much wide open this year. There are 4 or 5 clubs that can lay claim to having a genuine premiership chance this year. But we both agreed on Coburg Districts. There's no reason why any of Roxy, Hadfield, Moonee Valley, perhaps even Jacana can also get up there at Windsor Hill and cause some damage. And get back into Essendon for Division 1.
I've based it on key position talent, rucks, key forwards, key backs. I think Coburg Districts have the best stocks in that respect at the moment, even though Hadfield and Roxburgh Park can lay claim to probably having the first and second best midfield in the competition. Jacana, it'd be great for them to make the finals. I'm not suggesting they'll go all the way, but I hope that Moonee Valley pushes them all the way. To be honest, I hope that Keilor Park pushes them all the way. And the bottom two, Adam, we're in agreement there with Burnside Heights and East Sunbury. I'm hoping that one of those two teams can beat one of the top six. Just one, that's all we ask, an upset out of nowhere to keep things exciting and interesting, but I don't know if we won't see it coming, that's for sure, when it arrives.
And the thing about, sort of the club that's in the middle right now is Keilor Park. We're a bit worried about, what they have lost. We even suggested perhaps if any of those bottom two teams, Burnside or East Sunbury, are going to snatch a win from the top six, it could be Keilor Park. But this is a very proud footy club tale, and they themselves are going to be believing they can make finals, and they're certainly going to shake things up, or at least try to this year. So we'll have to wait and see just exactly where they're at, how they fit into the top five as well as we see it at this stage. But yeah, for the bottom two, Burnside Heights and East Sunbury, it's going to be out of them two again. They'll play a couple of mini grand finals this year and try and get the upper hand, and hopefully in the next couple of years they can start to be more competitive against the top teams. I just don't think it's going to happen yet.
So we agree on two things. One, Coburg Districts, and two, that it really is anyone's in Division 2 this season.
That's it for the EDFL Season Preview. It's going to be an exciting year, and we can't wait for the games to get started. We've had a great time here at the Pascoe Vale Hotel, so you should come down and check it out. My name's Varley, and we'll see you again soon.